And we are live. So, welcome to the summer of sci-fi fantasy. I am the American Werewolf, and with me tonight, I've got Eric from Hey Internet Eric here. What's happening, man?
Hey, glad to be back, man. Been a long time.
Yeah. It's been a minute. We were talking about it a little bit before we went on, but we're here now, and it's all good. It's all good.
Yep.
It's good to have you back.
Yep.
So, this was a stream we were supposed to do last week.
hmm
And I kicked the can on it because I've been taking on a lot locally here. And I didn't have the time to stream it. I didn't have the energy I didn't have the time to screen it. And then I just didn't have the energy to stream it afterwards. So I said, let's look at it next week. My schedule really hasn't lightened up very much. But I got in there today, after, clearing the chores because I've been doing some work around my dad's place and said, hey, let's just kick it 20 minutes and then I can do it and I can stream the movie. And I'm talking about the old 1986 classic Highlander. And we've got John, who should be joining us, unless he's taken one of his siestas, which is probably the case.
There could be only one guest here.
Yeah, exactly. Because he's so fucking decrepit. He's fucking folding over now.
We love you, Johnny.
Yeah. I saw this. I mean, I wanted John here for that specific purpose because John was one of the people that I met in '87 who introduced me to Highlander.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it was John and his brother Paul. They're like, you got to see this. I went to college in '87. So I hadn't seen it in '86. '87 comes around. They're like, you got to see this movie. And I watched it. I'm like, wow, okay. And so I wanted that contrast to compare between looking at it in '87 and looking at it today. How does it hold up? You, conversely, I've only seen it now for the second time.
Yes, the first time I saw it, oh God, it's been over 20 years, and I remember all I remembered honestly is I knew of the Kurgan, and I knew there was sword fighting. I knew of the wrestling match at the beginning, and I knew the Queen soundtrack, and that's it.
It does have a blistering soundtrack.
Fuck yeah.
I enjoyed very, very much. And I just watched it, like I said, before we came on tonight. So 6 o'clock, I just started watching it. I hadn't seen it easily in 10 years. Because it's not a movie that I watch like all the time or anything like that. Upon your second view, what did you think of Highlander? You've got Christopher Lambert, you've got Sean Connery, you've got Clancy Brown, and it's 1986. So,
taking 1986 into context, I really enjoyed it. Okay. We will definitely get into it. My problems are pretty minute, I guess you would say. Okay. But I'm thinking that the Kurgan is probably going to be one of my recent favorite villains. That's funny. It's 1986, but recent for me, favorite movie villains because it's Clancy fucking Brown. We always praise him. What I love about the sword fighting, it's not clean and choreographed.
No,
it's like a fight out in the fields. You know what I mean? So it was a lot of fun. In
a way, it has that sweaty sort of feeling that Cameron had in the first Terminator. In no way, shape, or form is this movie polished.
No, you feel very dirty sometimes watching it.
Yeah, it's a grimy setting. There's everything is very dark, and dimly lit. Things are happening at night. The color, the palette effect, even during the daytime, it's very muted. Lambert. I don't know. That was my first experience with Christopher Lambert.
I don't have much experience with him. I know him from the first Mortal Kombat. He didn't do anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I know he did all the Highlander sequels, but the only other thing I know him from is the second Ghost Rider movie. He was one of the monks, I think, with all the tattoos.
Yes.
And it's been forever since I saw that one, so I don't even remember what he did in it. So this is between Mortal Kombat from '95 and this is all I really know him from.
Mortal Kombat, he plays Raiden, doesn't he?
Yep.
He's fucking Raiden. I remember that. That was back in the days I used to smoke. And I was like, wow, that's fucking Christopher Lambert playing Raiden. Like, if I watched it sober now, I'd be like, get this fucking thing.
It still has its charm, but it's very dated. I forgot. He's in a really good movie, if you've ever seen, called The Hunted.
I own that movie on Blu-ray.
Yes, with Joan Chen and everything.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
That's a good
John Lone.
Yeah, that's a good fucking movie with Christopher Lambert.
Very few people know or talk about that movie at all. When people think of The Hunted, it's one of those few movies that two movies have the same title. People think of the movie with Benicio del Toro and Tommy Lee Jones.
Tommy Lee Jones, that's right.
Movie. That's the one that gets all the smoke. But Lambert stars in a fucking ninja movie.
Yep.
And it is a first-class martial arts flick, man.
It's great.
Japanese martial arts, sword fighting, that train scene where that one samurai's just got them all fucking going through that bottleneck because they can only fight in between the seats.
Yep.
And he's just chopping them to fucking pieces. That's a top-notch movie. Yeah. He also played Greystoke. He played Tarzan.
That's right.
And a very relatively loyal adaptation of Burroughs' story, probably among the more loyal as it goes.
Okay.
Here's a question. What do you think of Lambert's acting? I mean, is he good? Is he great? Is he mid?
Are we talking just in this movie or in general?
In general, but let's do both.
See, like he's a lot of fun in The Hunted. A lot of fun in The Hunted.
Yeah.
The main reason to watch that is for the action, though.
Yeah.
Same with Mortal Kombat. You watch that for the action.
Right.
But he's not given that much to do with Raiden. He's got a little bit of charisma.
Yeah.
But that's about it. Here, I like him a lot, but if we're just talking acting, I think he's just kind of in the middle. You know what I mean? It's funny. I believe the love scenes with like his wife, when she's aging and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Other than that, he's okay. I don't find him intimidating, which is I think kind of a something that needs improvement. Like if he's like this immortal god with in the sword fighting stuff, I think he needs to be a little bit more intimidating. Granted, he's going against fucking Clancy Brown, but I think he's about middle of the road, to be honest.
I thought there was some authenticity to this in that none of the stars, because they just didn't do that back then, they didn't look like action figures.
Right.
Like if you got somebody today, they'd be going on a 6-month training regimen. It'd be like Zack Snyder's 300. Where everybody's just jacked to the gills.
The abs and the biceps, it'd be nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I forgot. I watched the end of 300 the other day, and I forgot Michael Fassbender is even in there.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's like the guy who says we'll fight in the shade.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, they even got Fassbender jacked. Fassbender's like a great actor. A lot of those other people are good action stars, and character actors. But, I think if you have Fassbender, then you have a legitimate thespian. But I mean, if this were remade today, and there's been a lot of talk of this being remade, then they said, well, maybe Henry Cavill, but I think he's stepped away from the project now. Everybody's going to be jacked. None of them are that way. I mean, Lambert's kind of a small guy, you get the impression.
Yeah, he looks like a dude that would be, honestly, you take away the story, he looks like a guy that would be driving a taxi or something like in New York. You know what I mean? He's just a regular, everyday Joe. Yeah,
it's very unassuming, and I almost thought very much in keeping with what people might have been in terms of size 500 years ago. I remember one time going to an armory display at Philadelphia Museum of Art, and I was struck by how small the suits of armor were. Like 5'10" would have been like a stretch for somebody back then. There's no Brock Lesnar's,
right.
There's no Arnold's, There's no Shaquille O'Neals. There's no Wilt Chamberlains.
Mm-hmm.
No Ferrignos. Not even like a Chris Evans. Or a Momoa. Momoa is like 6'4". Affleck, who's like 6'4". These people were tiny.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there is some authenticity to that. That's inadvertently, correct, but has been lost over time, and that action has kind of turned into something else.
If you think about it like this, John McClane, receding hairline, kind of pudgy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we're talking about like the battle scenes here, look at like Braveheart. Those were guys you pick right off the fucking field. You had old men, young men. Some guys had muscles. Some guys had beer bellies. Some guys were just fat. You know what I mean? Westerns. Not everybody's in great shape with that. So it makes you feel more, I don't want to say connected because of how, how over the top this kind of is with its plot, but it's like the everyday man can do this type of thing.
Yeah, it's the everyman.
Yep.
And so it is the story of Connor McLeod, who is a Scotsman, who is hundreds, maybe 500, close to 500 years old, who comes from, the Highlands in Scotland, now living in 1986 New York City. And he is immortal. So, the only way he can be killed is to have his head chopped off. He's been surviving and occasionally fighting, with other immortals in this quest for what is called the prize. The film starts out with the first shot that we... actually, the beginning of the movie starts out with... Go ahead. Some really fucking cool professional wrestling.
We had... I don't know what federation was. I'm thinking AWA, but we had the Fabulous Freebirds, and they were taking on the Tonga Kid, who I loved growing up. I think you said it was Greg Gagne. Greg Gagne. My dad loved Greg Gagne because he grew up watching Vern Gagne. That was really cool. And I'm like, oh my God. And this is 1986, back when air quotes wrestling was real. This was kick your fucking ass type of wrestling, you know what I mean? And it was great because it was still Michael Hayes being Michael Hayes. And I'm like, this is like he's playing to the camera and stuff like that. I'm like, this is a fucking Highlander movie, and we're starting with pro wrestling. So now I'm so
Hayes, purely sexy.
That's right.
Doing all that dancing, singing "The Boys Are Back in Town."
The moonwalk.
Terry, Bam Bam, Gordy.
Yep.
Buddy Roberts.
Yep.
And then you got Gagne and the Tonga Kid, Madison Square Garden. Yeah, I mean, and Bam Bam Gordy was just.
You don't fuck with Bam Bam. You don't fuck some of those stories that you want to go down a rabbit hole. Go down a YouTube rabbit hole of Terry Gordy stories. You know what I mean? With so many people telling stories of
Brody stories.
Yeah. Oh my God. Just the Jack Daniels drinking contest they would have at night, and oh man, it just him having like 2 heart attacks on a plane ride because of the drugs.
Strokes, didn't he?
Yeah. And then he wrestled within like 2 weeks or some bullshit like that because that's just how it was back then.
Yeah, he was never the same. They said he was never the same after that.
Yeah, but he was one of them legitimate tough men.
Yeah. And we forget that Michael Hayes went on to WWE to become like a host. And then he cut his hair and he got fat.
Yep.
And I don't think they even called him Michael Hayes anymore. I think they called him.
He was Doc Hendricks.
Okay, he became Doc Hendricks. And I remember when I saw him because he was the host for that Royal Rumble where Austin gave the famous Austin 316.
Yeah, the King of the Ring,
King of the Ring.
Yep.
And I was just like, who the hell is... I didn't even recognize him. I didn't even recognize him, but I remember growing up back in the day of the UWF, the Cowboy Bill Watts promotion.
Yep.
And he was just all over that, man. He was just all over that. He was just fucking great. I mean, it leads to another fight in the basement. The fight choreography, like you said, is not great.
But that's what I like about it. You know what I mean? Because that's what I like. Because think of it. If you're fighting in the field with a broadsword, you're going to do what you can. It's not going to look pretty. If you've ever been in a real fight, real fights are sloppy. You know what I mean? You're fighting to win.
With a broadsword.
Yeah.
You're in a real sword fight. You know this.
If you've swung a sword around, you know what I'm talking about. But they're sloppy. You know what I mean? You're fighting to win, not like in a movie to look pretty. So that's what I liked about it. And when when Lambert swung his sword, it looked like it was fucking heavy. You know what I mean? So that's what I liked about it.
So, I mean, it goes on. You start to meet these different characters. It's flashing back and forth in time. And I don't want to go through the whole timeline because we'll be here for forever. But you start going back and you see that he's had this encounter in the 16th century where he was, living in the Highlands with the rest of the hayseeds, where they get into some big clan feud. And the Kurgan is like a mercenary.
Yes.
And I love the look. I mean, I'm curious today what the Kurgan would look like in like a modern depiction.
I don't know, man. I love when we first see him. He's got that fucking war helmet on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's like a bear skull.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's definitely covered in fur, and I thought I saw some fangs on it, like where his forehead is. And what I love about the Kurgan is his look changes. Yeah, pretty much all the time. Like when we see him here, he's already mean as hell looking, but by the end, like look at that. By the end of the movie, when he's got the shaved head, he's got the bobby pins in his neck and stuff.
His neck, because he's got where his throat's almost been cut. He's almost been decapitated. So, yeah, I mean, he's just walking around scaring the shit out of everybody.
Oh, God.
I mean, McLeod, the minute he sees him, he's like, oh, shit, here we go again.
Yep.
McLeod is never looking forward to these fights. Because the Kurgan is just a scary motherfucker. But I thought it was interesting at the beginning of the movie how he survives, of course, the strike from the Kurgan, because the Kurgan doesn't get to chop his head off. All of his friends rush the Kurgan to save, McLeod's life. Right. But then within a week or day or two, they turn on him.
Yeah, that totally threw me for a loop. They're thinking he's the devil, it's witchcraft, and they're banishing him from the fucking village. Yeah. You know what I mean? I knew when he was like,
they wanted to burn him. They wanted to burn him alive. That one guy, Angus,
his own cousin,
his life. Yeah, saves him, and is just like, get the fuck out of here. It
wasn't like even his own wife or his lover was like turned on him.
Yeah,
I knew he was the hero back then, but I was not expecting right after the battle, A, for him to die, but then come back, and then B, for them to be like, it's witchcraft. He's a devil.
Yeah, yeah. He ends up having to leave because he almost gets burnt at the stake. Like one guy in the village ends up saving his life, pulling everybody off of him. And he goes on to live this life where he, meets a woman and they just kind of have their own little quiet thing going on. And then we get to meet Sean Connery. And now Sean Connery is interesting in this, in that I enjoy having him around very, very much. But it's that I think he adds gravitas.
He does. Well, that's the thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I was laughing at the fact his last name was Ramirez, and he still had that Scottish accent.
He's the only legitimate Scotsman in the whole fucking movie.
But that's one thing about Connery. Whether it's James Bond or whether it's Indiana Jones Sr. or even The Rock or something, he brings that sort of class to it. You know what I mean? It's not just the voice, because he's got a very recognizable voice. You know what I mean? You hear him, it's like Sam Elliott. They talk, you know who it is. But he's definitely got some class. The way he holds himself is like right there when he's just giving you that little look with his eyes. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's what I loved about Connery.
It's like a kid lying to their parent. A parent knows they're lying, just looking at him like, really?
Did you get in trouble at school again? No. Okay, bullshit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he is James Bond. He is James Bond. And so, it's fucking James Bond is in this? Okay, I remember telling people about Penny Dreadful. It was 1923, the Yellowstone. And I was saying, the big bad in that season is, and I was telling my buddy this, none other than 007 himself, Timothy Dalton. I think the 007 aspect just lends this gravitas to oh shit, Timothy Dalton's in it. Okay.
Smooth, suave, you know what I mean?
It says a certain thing, If you've been James Bond, then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, fuck.
I'll watch this. You can't just pick some bum off
Roger Moore.
Yeah. You can't pick some bum off the street to play James Bond. You know what I mean?
No, it's like a 10-year commitment at minimum.
Right.
And you don't pick a bum to play James Bond. So he is McLeod's mentor, teaching him the ropes of what it is to be immortal, giving him some tough love. He also explains that, relationships aren't going to work for him. And, that's kind of a sub-thread throughout this whole story. And that relationships don't work because the women age, his family will age, his friends will age and die, and he won't.
Right. They grow old without you.
Yeah, and you're going to stay the same. And that's not compatible.
Right.
With a human relationship, you grow old together, you become friends and, you grow old together. You become husbands and wives and lovers and grow old together. That's not going to happen for them. And he, repeatedly implores McLeod to, leave this woman that he's with, in a loving way. He's not, he's just like, look, I've been through this. Because I think in this movie, Sean Connery is playing someone who's close to 1,000 years old. And he talks about that first Japanese woman that he was in love with. And he's just like, it doesn't work. Yeah. And it will break you when she dies.
Yeah, it's the whole I've been there. I don't want you to suffer through it type of thing that we've seen before. Yeah.
Yeah. But, you understand why McLeod doesn't do it either. Why he doesn't heed the advice because, he loves this woman.
Right.
Who we do see, we see her age and die.
I really liked that. Like, I didn't realize there was going to be as much drama to this movie. Yeah. So, I'm going to be honest. I do think they probably could have cut maybe 15 minutes of this movie. I do.
There's a director's cut with more.
Yeah, Jesus. But I will say this. I really enjoyed that scene. It made him, he's immortal, but it made him more human to me. Him having to watch the love of his life sadly age and die and fade away. You know what I mean? So that makes him more of a.
They can't have children either.
Right, and that just makes him more of a tragic character. And then you kind of see that in his performance. Like, this is definitely like when we're in present day, he's a man with nothing. Yeah. He really is.
Yeah, and in the director's cut. The woman that works with him in the antique shop is a girl that he rescued like in World War II.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, where he was gunned down by Nazis but not killed, and he uses his body to shield her.
Now, that would have been neat.
And, he's like, and then that's where the soundtrack, the Queen soundtrack is, it's a kind of magic. And he explains it to her in a way that a child could understand why he's not dead. And he said, "Oh, it's a kind of magic. I'm okay. You're going to be okay." And that, because it almost looks like, you would think for a second that they would have a relationship or something like that, or because she speaks to him very intimately,
right?
And that maybe she's like Miss Moneypenny, or something like that. She's Moneypenny, but she's not. She's almost like a daughter to him. Even though she looks older because of the obvious, way the way the thing is set up. He's like a father figure to her. And I guess her family was killed in the war, and he's raised her ever since. And it's not that way. But the things that are in the director's cut are only these very small scenes, but they're important. And they provide context.
That would have been cool to see. I even though I did say that we could have cut like 15 minutes of it. I'll probably search out the director's cut just to see that, or at least maybe YouTube it or something like that.
Yeah, YouTube the extra scenes or something like that, and you could get them. They're worth watching. I should say, and before we go any further, that this is available right now on Tubi.
Yeah, that's where I watched it.
Free on Tubi, as did I. Unfortunately, you have to deal with a few commercials, but that's life goes on.
It's free, so I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, and I was thinking about actually trying to find a used director's cut DVD for like $1. I'd probably get it on Amazon or something.
Yeah, you can find it out there.
So I mean, I think this happened in the same year as The Untouchables. I can't remember what year The Untouchables came around. Was it 86? Sure, it was 86.
I can look real quick. But yeah, I think Connery won the Oscar for that. 87? Okay.
87, yeah, and he did win the Oscar for that. But in this movie, he actually dies.
Mm-hmm.
And I had seen Connery die first in The Untouchables, which is just a heartbreaking fucking scene.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that. I'm like 18. I'm like, what the fuck am I watching? You just killed Sean Connery. Like, Sean Connery just doesn't die.
Yeah.
You know, and he just dies and there's blood everywhere. And he's, you know, trying to get Kevin Costner to, you know, stay the course, you know, to quote George Bush, you know, and, you know, stick with it. And here, you know, again, he dies because he gets attacked. He becomes friends with McLeod and the woman that she's with. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. And he's talking to her, you know, and they're just laughing and having some drinks. And McLeod's out somewhere. And fucking Kurgan descends on the castle and just, he's like a fucking berserker, man. I mean, he kills Ramirez. Ramirez almost gets him.
Yeah, it was close.
You know, yeah, he almost gets him, but the Kurgan's just too strong. And then you find out he rapes the fucking woman.
And what was really brutal, like that whole church scene. Oh my God, Clancy Brown knows exactly what the fuck he's in. You know what I mean? Whether he's harassing the old people when he steals the car and drives away with the lady still in the car, or I do love when, you know, Connor McLeod, he's in the church, he's praying. You know, we see the candles and this and that, and then suddenly we see someone else's hand in front of the candle, and we hear some praying. But then we see the hand going down on the candles, putting the lights out, and he's harassing the nuns, like flicking his tongue and stuff like that. And then, I love that scene where he's harassing the guy behind the desk at the motel.
Oh yeah.
And then he kills the hooker, and then after he walks out, oh, how was candy for you? Don't ever talk to me again.
Yeah.
But when he reveals that he raped the woman, and then he realized, oh, that wasn't Ramirez's wife, that was yours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You see that little fucking smile on his face. You know what I mean? It's like an added bonus.
Yeah. Yeah, he's evil, but it's a fun kind of evil to go along with. You know, and I think that's an accurate description of this movie. It's just fun.
Yeah,
it's not taken very seriously. There is some drama, like we said, with the love thread that goes throughout. You know, and that, you know, he can't have children. There's no, it's just him.
Right.
You know, and so, you know, these sorts of things. I did it. There's a lot of inadvertent. Well, there's a lot of, I don't know if it's inadvertent humor, but there is a lot of humor in here with the police. You know, when the one guy gets off the phone, he goes, "You see what I'm up against? His Vietnamese neighbor ate his dog," and he just slams the fucking phone down. He's just so fucking aggravated. Or the cops are being harassed by that hot dog vendor. Hey, that's a competent name.
Yeah. Or after the one cop, you know, he tries to blow Kurgan away, and he gets the sword through the belly. And then when they're dealing with him in the hospital bed, and then he's saying, you know, I'm still gonna get him, type of thing, and then they close the door like he's like off his rocker, off his med, and he gives out the, you know, the let's go type of thing, and they look at him, they just do like a little mock lifting their hands up, and then you know they're just, you know, waiting for him to not look, just kind of like brush it off, like type of thing. Like, it's really good comic relief. Yeah.
It's not. Could it be better? Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have, like you said, tightened this script up quite a bit. I won't talk in terms of deducting minutes, but you could have tightened things up. You could have given it that ultra serious kind of tone, you know, that James Cameron Terminator kind of tone, if you wanted to do that. That's just not what this movie is, though.
It fits with the cheese that we got in the 80s. Like, I'm not gonna lie, okay? I was laughing hysterically because of how cheesy it is. When they're fucking running down on the beach, I'm just picturing Rocky and fucking Apollo Creed running down on the beach and hugging in the water. You know what I mean?
Except that Sean Connery is too damn old to run very far.
Exactly. He needs his horse or something like that.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. It's a good movie. There's some humor, like with the remembrance of the duel, the sword duel that he gets into when he's drunk. Yeah, when he's the aristocrat, even with the wig on and everything. I'm sorry I called your wife a fat pig or something like that. Yeah. And I'm leaving, and I'm done. Yeah. I apologize, and I'm leaving. You know, no problem. You know, and eventually we get to the part where, you know, there is a love interest for him. This sort of forensics person who sort of understands and is, kind of on his tail, trying to get to the bottom of things. It's one of the more extreme ways to get laid, where he makes her stab him in the gut.
Yeah.
And so there's a brief sex scene. It is in keeping with what we got in the 80s.
Yes.
And of course, in the end, the hero, he beats the Kurgan, takes his head off, wins the prize. The effects, the special effects are not good.
No, that's another, like I said, like with the beach scene, I was kind of rolling my eyes when he gets lifted up, and I'm picturing, like, the ghosts of Christmas past and shit like that, lifting him up. The CGI, it was very, I wouldn't say groan inducing because it wasn't awful, but it was definitely eye rolling. But again, when you think about it, this is 1986. Look at the stuff that's been coming out. It did fit the time period. And if you make it this far in the fucking movie and you don't realize by now it's nothing to be taken serious.
Yeah.
That says something. This is a movie about a man who was born in the 1400s. We first see him in the 1700s, and now it's 1986. Queen plays like every 20 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What you're getting,
man. I'm not a default Queen fan. I mean,
right.
I don't go out of my way to listen to him. But I remember, I think I texted you guys in the group. I'm like, I'm 2 minutes into this, and they were just fucking rocking it, man.
Oh God, yeah.
Shit. This was a really fucking bumping soundtrack.
Oh yeah, Queen had their hits, and this was one of their big hits, And Queen is known for "We Will Rock You," "We Are the Champions," all that stuff, and a lot of people just call it the Highlander song. You know what I mean?
Highlander soundtrack, a kind of magic. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good shit. It's good shit. So he wins that in the end. He becomes immortal. He gets with the forensic girl, and that's it. Kind of ends.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost 2 hours. It's an hour and 50 minutes.
Right. That's what I mean. It was. I didn't realize it was going to be 2 hours, but again, it's just a nitpick. Cutting out maybe 15 minutes, maybe 20, something like that. Tying it up a little, but it didn't make me hate the film. Like I was still enjoying most of what I was seeing. You know what I mean? From beginning to end. Again, and just Clancy. Every time Clancy Brown is on screen, I have this big grin on my face because I'm waiting to see what he's going to do.
Clancy Brown, I first met him, well, not met him personally, but I mean, I first was familiar with his work in a movie called Bad Boys. And I don't know.
Yeah, the prison movie with Sean Penn.
Yeah, the Juvie Hall sort of movie where Sean Penn goes to jail for killing, I think he accidentally kills somebody, a young boy. And then later, the boy's older brother, Isai Morales, goes to the same jail that he's in. Mm-hmm. Isai Morales is the big bad in the new Mission Impossible movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's Isai Morales.
Very
Morales
cool.
is the big bad. And Clancy Brown is one of the two entrenched sort of bullies in the Juvie Hall. And I remember him from that. So that was the early 80s. Did not recognize him at all, maybe 5 years later here in this movie. Mm-hmm. But just a treat to fucking watch, and has been a treat and everything since then. The last thing I've seen him in, he's in the John Wick 4.
Okay.
And it's fantastic to watch him in that.
I mean, we've talked about him in Starship Troopers, you just disable a man's hand, he can't shoot you. Medic, that type of stuff. But he's always great.
Decades of great character work.
Shawshank Redemption.
Sure.
He's great.
Hadley. Have you seen Carnival yet? Did we talk about this?
Oh, Carnival is one of my favorite shows, and I'm so pissed that it was canceled after season 2.
Yeah.
When he was,
but luckily, another season of Sex and the City.
Yeah, right. Thanks a lot.
We've got that to look forward to.
Yeah. But when he
that was a weird show where I've never seen anything like that before.
I think he was Brother Jacob is what he was called. Brother Justin. But the cast was amazing. Nick Stahl, who I'm a huge fan of.
Amy Madigan.
So many good characters in that.
Yeah.
It was so disappointing when that got canceled because the way it ended, you know what I mean? And the you go on it's on the IMDb. The creator it's like 4 or 5 paragraphs. He says how it would have ended, type of thing.
Oh, does he really? Okay.
He does, but it was such a disappointment that was canceled. Yeah. It was so fucking good. You know, Adrienne Barbeau as the Snake Lady.
Right. Yeah. She was great.
Mm-hmm.
She was great. That was a great show. He's been great in pretty much everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a bad cast. It's not a bad film. It's not Lawrence of Arabia.
Right.
But it's a fun movie to watch. And if you haven't seen it, now's as good a time as any.
Yeah, because I remember, I knew of Highlander. My buddy Derek, he's a huge fan of that because he was also a Queen fan. But he was also big into the TV show.
I have another buddy who was into the Duncan MacLeod. And
that's how I knew of it, because it was, that's where I knew that, Queen was involved. And I guess there's like 4 movies. I know the second one.
I think there's 3.
I know there's 4 because the second one, Sean Connery comes back and then you find out they're fucking aliens or some bullshit.
Yeah.
And then I know part 3, Mario Van Peebles is the bad guy.
He's like the devil.
Yeah.
He's like the devil.
And then part 4 is the one where it has,
it's the crossover movie.
Edge from WWE plays a barbarian in that.
Oh Jesus!
I know. So, but I'm interested. My buddy told me to skip part 2. He says only watch it if you have beer handy because it makes no fucking sense. But he says the other 2, like 3 and 4, they're decent.
I saw 3 a long time ago. It was okay.
Yeah,
it was okay, as I remember.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, is there anything about this movie that we did not discuss that you would like to bring up?
Not really. I didn't know how I was going to feel about this movie because this is one of those movies that pretty much has been hyped to the moon for me. You know what I mean? And lots of times, if you see those type of movies for basically the first time, you know what I mean? After 20, 30 years of hype, I didn't know if it was going to be overhyped for me. I had a lot of fun. You know what I mean? I had a lot of fun. I knew what I was getting into right away with the wrestling and, the sword fight in the garage. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to roll with it. And then once Clancy ate up every piece of fucking scenery when he was on screen, I'm like, okay, we got a ball game. Let's go.
Yeah, we're going to be okay. Okay. All right. So let's get to the part in the stream where we rate the movie. This show, this channel has a rating system that goes from 0 to 5 up by halves. So 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, all the way to 5. So 0, for example, would be I'd rather live with an eyelash in my eye for the rest of my life than watch this movie again. All the way to 5, which is like, this is the destination. This is cinema. This is why I talk about movies in the first place. How would you rate 1986's Highlander?
Okay, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to give it a 3.5. You know what I mean? And I honestly think that's very fair because, like we've said, it's not the perfect film. It has its flaws, but it survives on the fun factor. I do think, Lambert, he's just kind of middle of the road with his acting, but Clancy Brown makes up for that. I love the sloppy sword fighting. It's a great soundtrack. But it's not like a fantastic movie, but it is a very fun movie. So I think 3.5.
Okay, I want to go with a 3.
Okay.
Just for all the reasons that you've said, I think since I was 18 or 19 first seeing this movie, it has fallen off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because 18, your brain's just not even fully developed yet.
Right.
But it's still it's entertainment.
Yes.
I won't say it's top tier entertainment, but it's good entertainment.
Yeah.
It's good entertainment for that particular time. You have to consider what 1986 was in terms of what filmmaking was. Sure, that was the year they brought out Aliens, but this isn't that.
Right.
This is not that.
This is something perfect. Like if this was on TV on like a Sunday afternoon and like I'm folding laundry or something, I'm going to sit down and watch it. Yeah, exactly.
On the couch.
And everyone has that type of movie in their collection that they love to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Eric, plug something.
Okay. Starting next month, because at the end of this month I'm doing Shark Week of nothing but shitty shark movies. I'm not promoting that.
Are you doing the Shallows?
Starting next month, I am jumping into the Rocky franchise because I want to talk about good movies for the first time in a long time. So I'm jumping in the Rocky franchise. After that, per your request, I'm going right into Rambo. We're doing some Stallone talk. For the hell of it, I might throw in some Demolition Man. And then per request of my friend Alex, from my old co-host from Two Bearded Losers, he sent me a movie that I have never seen called Glengarry Glen Ross that I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Yeah, that's
a courtroom drama, I think. And he wants me to give an honest review of that. Never seen it before, so I'll be doing that as well.
Oh God, what's the name of the director of that?
All I know is Kevin Spacey's in it. I'm looking to look it up.
Kevin Spacey, Alec Baldwin. Oh God.
1992. It is directed by James Foley.
Is it James Foley?
It says James Foley, and it stars Al Pacino, Jack Lemmon, Alec Baldwin, Spacey, Alan Arkin, Ed Harris. So it seems like it's got a great cast.
Okay, maybe it was written by David Mamet. That's it. So I'm thinking of the screenwriter.
Okay.
David Mamet. It's David Mamet. Okay, so it's very it's going to be very you'll enjoy that.
Okay.
That's going to be unlike anything you typically cover.
Thank God, because I need to cleanse the fucking palate after this month.
Well, let me ask you something. Are you going to get to the Shallows, or have you kicked that off of?
I'm going to do that for myself. Okay. Probably not for the channel, but I have that in my queue to watch afterwards because you haven't recommended a bad shark movie yet.
No, because there aren't that many, but there are some. Mm-hmm. There are some if you know where to look. Open Water is another one too.
That's another one I saved too because, like I said,
that's a harsh movie.
Yeah, I'm only doing this because a lot of people like me to discuss shitty movies and whatever. I mean, it's 15 minutes, in an hour and 10 minutes out of my time. Who cares? But I'm definitely going to need some palate cleansing, so I got those two on standby afterwards.
All right. For this channel, I will be back on the main channel. This is right now on American Werewolf EU, my backup channel. I'm going to be posting links to that on my social media feed on Twitter, where you can find it. So give that a sub if you're on here. Like this video, leave a comment, sub the channel. Now, I'll be back tomorrow on my main channel, American Werewolf, talking about the writers and actors strike. And because of everything that's just been going on with me lately, I just haven't had the time or the energy. But I want to get into the writers and actors strike, try to break it down and figure this out as best I can. And, see what direction we're heading in. Doesn't seem like there are any breakthroughs coming anytime soon. I heard that, possibly at this point now, there's, I think, as much as a $3 billion loss right now. Lots of projects that, perhaps we were looking forward to have frozen.
Yep.
Who knows what's going to be revitalized when this, gets moving again, who's going to be standing, so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's we were talking offline. It's very interesting. I'll leave it for you and your stream, but like what certain celebrities have said and the way that they have said them, you know what I mean? And I don't know, one person in particular, I don't think that's going to help their cause the way he said it, but it's going to be interesting. I don't think this is going to budge anytime soon because I see more and more actors like joining the picket line. I saw Kevin Bacon recently.
Actors are joining the picket line, and the studios seem to just be holding. They're not budging.
I don't see this ending anytime soon.
No, with this thing with AI, using people's likenesses, I'm sure they probably want to get into that very badly.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed was one of the actresses they just posted it on, I think it was Instagram. One of the actresses from Orange is the New Black. I don't know if you ever watched that show. She was the Asian actress. She posted a lot of the things that they're complaining about is the fact that they don't get residuals from streaming, or the residuals is basically nothing. This actress was probably in over 7 seasons, maybe 20, 25 episodes, maybe more. And she was, doing her video of all the titles that she was in, and it had to have been at least 20, 25, and then boom, $25 residual check for all that work.
Well, that's the whole problem. The stream. Well, let's not get into.
Right. I was just using that as an example. Yeah.
All right, so my thanks to Eric for stopping in to talk another one. Hopefully, we'll be back again next week with the next film. We'll see what that is. I'm pushing for Back to the Future, but we'll see what Rod's availability is, and if not, then we'll just pick another one off the list.
Hopefully, nothing Stephen King.
Huh?
Said hopefully with Rod, nothing Stephen King.
No, not for sci-fi fans. Not for sci-fi fans.
Yeah, because there's always the lawnmower, man. You don't want to chance that with Rod.
And good night.
Cheers.